Welcome to this part of Sludge Cast, where we pick two items from my collection, give you some fun facts about it, and let you know why I thought it was worthy enough to be part of Sludge's stash.
You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility.
We have a hope.
Get to the chopper! And leave. There's the flesh wound. I am the father.
Welcome back to the second episode of Sludge's Stash, the segment of Sludge Cast where I pull a couple items from my collection in the Nerd Vault, talk about it, and let you know why I thought it was pretty cool and felt it was worthy to be put into my collection. Hopefully you guys do too. Today's episode, we have got a couple of Godzilla figures I wanted to bring out, and then a rare autographed VHS. I actually didn't know what to pick as the second item, even though there's technically three here for the show, and I had a couple options. Sent out a couple questions to some friends to see what they like to see. Most of them said something autographed, and several of them said something VHS. So I decided to give them best of both worlds. First, we're going to jump into the Godzilla figures. So I didn't do any figures on the last episode, and thought it'd be cool to bring these out. What I have here is something I really sought after for my collection, and used to have one of these guys as a kid. These are called the Dor Mei Godzilla Knockoff or bootleg figures. Dor Mei was a toy company from China, predominantly back in the 80s, that made a lot of knockoff figures or just plastic dinosaur figures, things like that you would see. But they did make a couple Godzilla figures. And the reasons why they're knockoffs or bootlegs, and there is a good amount of collectors as far as the Godzilla fan base that seek after these knockoff figures, specifically the Dor Meis, is because they are kind of hard to find and really kind of cool and nostalgic. But they had made these without a license from Toho to be able to do these. And of course, in the 80s, Godzilla had another boom with Godzilla 1985 coming out here in America. Of course, came out earlier the year prior in Japan with The Return of Godzilla. Same movie. We talked about it pretty soon on an upcoming monster movie, Stomp Down. But when it got brought over here to America, they had edited a lot and added Raymond Burr, who was in the original American edited version of Godzilla King of the Monsters. Again, check out that episode. It'll be coming out next month. But so with a big Godzilla boom in the 80s, with it coming back, a lot of companies were making toys. Obviously the same from Japan, companies like Bandai and Band Presto and Concord and Billiken, a few others. But Dor Mei had made some knockoffs again because they didn't have a license for it. And if you notice with the Godzilla, obviously looks like Godzilla, is Godzilla, but his fins, this one's called the shark fin Godzilla, is because the spines on his back look more like shark fins. And then this guy right here is their knockoff of a monster from the Godzilla movies called Gigan. Gigan came out in 1972 in the Godzilla vs. Gigan film, released here in America originally as Godzilla on Monster Island. And then he made another appearance again the year following in Godzilla vs. Megalon. And then again in 2004, 50th anniversary film Godzilla Final Wars, he got a souped up redesign and brought back for that film, a big fan favorite. So with these figures, the Godzilla actually came in multiple colors. As a kid, I had one of these. They had the blue one here that you see. They've got one that's more of a brown, dark maroon red. And then they've got a third one that is red with yellow on it. Now these figures, of course, were pretty easy to find. I had the dark brownish, reddish figure myself, and some of my best friends from across the street when I lived in Florida had the blue one as well. So we'd play with these constantly as a kid. The Gigan himself came in three colors. What you see here is more of a brownish red with a lot of green and some whites. You had one that was more vibrantly yellow with green and red, and then you had one that was a lot more strong, bright red with the greens. And of course, again, very sought after figures. Normally these figures by themselves will sell around the $50 range. I lucked out finding these kind of locally, both of them for $40. So it was a complete steal for me to get these, and I was super excited to get them in my collection. Again, there's a lot of people that seek after these. I have a friend in Canada named Matt Oman who loves the Dor Mei figures. And a lot of people on the Godzilla fan sites that like to collect them. One thing that, of course, now that's many reasons why it was cool enough to put in my collection. Being a Godzilla fan was to have these knockoff figures because they are highly sought after and are really cool. Of course, the goal is I would like to get all 3 color variations of Godzilla and Gigan. They also did a Rodan. They did one in a kind of like that same darker red, almost brown color. Well, more predominantly brown on the Rodan. And then they did a dark blue version. Now, when these came out, something I'd like to talk about with these is there was another company called Imperial that actually had a license to make Godzilla figures with the co-release of Godzilla 1985 here in America, a Chinese company. A lot of times when you go online looking for these figures, you'll find the name Imperial pop up, which can cause some confusion because I've heard some people call these the Imperial knockoffs. These are not Imperial figures. Actually, I have one right here for you. So right here is the 12-inch 1985 Imperial Godzilla figure. It is missing the tag that came with a little tag that was attached to his hand, tag card. This figure actually is my figure since I was a kid. My father bought me this when I was a child for Christmas. I got this with Godzilla 1985, the original New World Pictures VHS release. Got them together, and so this is as old as me. I've had this about pretty much the entire time I've been alive and haven't gotten rid of it. So really cool figure, but Imperial had a license from Toho to make this figure and 2 other versions of this figure. Same figure, but you got the 12-inch, a 10-inch, and a 6-inch figure. I also have the 6-inch figure in my collection as well. The 10-inch one's a little harder to find and can run a pretty penny. But I want to state that because there's a lot of confusion and people will go looking for the Imperial figures thinking that that's these, and they're not. These are strictly Dor Mei. Imperial was a totally different company who made this. Obviously, you can see they got a lot of the designs from the Imperial figure. You'll see the silver on his chest. Even the Godzilla ones that they did had the silver on the chest. Same kind of structure, build, but with some slight differences. The way that you definitely can know, one, obviously, if not knowing the figure, because this one's a pretty well-known figure. Most people have at least one of these versions of the Imperial in their collection. It's very sought after, very favored Godzilla figure, as this was one of the earliest mass-produced figures in America for Godzilla, because there wasn't a whole lot back then, unlike today. But the way that you know is on the bottom, and like most companies will stamp their name on their figures. This one right here on the right foot actually has copyright 1985 Toho Company on this foot. And that's because they had the license from Toho to make this figure. And then on this side will state Imperial, made in China. And it's actually got the Imperial, you may not be able to see this, crown. All Imperial figures, whether it's the Godzilla or any of the other ones, were stamped with that crown. The Dor Meis have no branding of any kind anywhere on any of their figures, again because these were bootleg knockoffs. So just wanted to clear that up for those who go looking for these figures and may try and search for the Imperial. These are Dor Meis, and that's what you're looking for. This is the Imperial, kind of rightfully so. It looks Imperial and is a pretty awesome figure. So that's for those, and of course that's many reasons why I thought these were cool enough to be put in my collection as a Godzilla collector. And I'll be looking for the other 2 colors for both of these figures, and will eventually own a Rodan, which I don't yet. So on to this next item for the collection is a 1987 movie. Well, actually technically 1986. This movie came out in the UK under the title The Lamp, but was released in America later the following year as The Outing. This movie is just one of those kind of lower budget, I don't want to say real low budget because it had a pretty good, decent little budget for effects for the evil genie or the Jinn in the movie. Was about a group of teenagers who decide to spend the night in a museum to party and have a good time, and don't know it, but there's a evil genie or Jinn loose in the museum that goes out after them and tries to kill them and stuff. So typical run-of-the-mill 80s monster movie, but a really cool spin with it. A lot of people are like, oh man, do you love Aladdin? I like The Outing. This was a movie I watched as a kid, late night on TV, and absolutely fell in love with it, fell in love with the monster design. This movie isn't the greatest, but it's definitely fun. So when I was actually able to locate the trailer for this film to show you guys and see if you'd like it. So real quick, check the trailer out. Maybe you want to give this one a watch. here you go.
Since the beginning of time, man has been fascinated by the mysterious, the unexplained, the unknown. Consider, if you will, the legend of the lamp.
Looks like something out of Arabian Nights. Oh, is it okay if I open it?
No, honey, I wish you wouldn't.
But think twice before you make a wish.
One thing, though, about the warning on the inscription.
What's that?
The former owner should have read it.
You've uncovered another King Tut's curse, huh?
For within it lurks the unleashed power of death and destruction. It can take any form. Strike any time. Anywhere. Alex knows.
I don't think I like this.
Quit worrying. You will before the night's over.
And soon her friends will too.
I miss you've got to send to Miss Wallace.
What's the matter? Afraid?
That there is no way on Earth
Something's wrong.
to put an end to the terror.
What can you do?
Got to be an answer here.
But what is it? This can't be happening.
The lamp. Make a wish if you dare.
All right, so like I said, low-budget horror film from the 80s, always good for a fun time. It is a cool little movie. Again, I've had this VHS copy since the 90s, where I've got it from a local video store that had it for sale. Love the movie. The cool thing behind it, of course, now this movie deals with, as you saw in the trailer, a group of kids in a museum who have to fight off an evil genie. The genie is really, really cool looking. I know that they didn't show it there in the trailer. I'll try and make sure we got a little picture of the djinn to pop up here at the bottom so that you can see. But this movie actually has a really cool actor who voiced the djinn in the movie. Last year, I went to RobCon, like I always do. Love Robert Bilk's convention, and I got to meet Jackson Bostwick. Jackson Bostwick is most famously known as being Captain Marvel or Shazam in the 1970s Captain Marvel TV series. He did have had a few other acting roles, but that was what he was most known for. Well, last year Jackson was at RobCon, and I got the opportunity, and you can check it on an earlier episode of Sludgecast, to interview Jackson, and had a great time doing that. Had a lot of fun. It was really cool to meet such an iconic actor as far as a comic book world, because he was the first, Shazam, which was really, really cool. After the interview, of course, now he's sitting at this table and he's got all these pictures of him as Shazam and 8x10s and 11x17s, and fans are coming up and getting him to autograph their comics and their movie or VHS and DVD copies of the show, and going really good. And after we did the interview, I said, "Hey, Jackson, would you mind autographing something for me?" And I like to pull a lot of rare things out in my collection, and a lot of things I like. You might have an actor or a character that people like for something really big and famous. I tend to like the things that are a little more hard to find and unknown, unless you really dig into this movie and check out the credits, and most people wouldn't know that Jackson voiced the djinn in this one. This was kind of like one of those, hey, I need a paycheck jobs for him. So I asked him if I can get an autograph, and he said, absolutely. Would you like one to go an 8x10, 11x17? I said, no, actually, I brought something for you to sign. And I pulled this out and handed it to him, and the look on Jackson's face was priceless, as he just kind of stared in it at a disbelief. And he finally, after a few seconds, looked up to me and said, I've been doing these conventions for decades. Never once has anyone ever brought me this piece of crap film to autograph. And he started laughing, and he says, I'm pretty sure that you're the one person who bought this VHS, which, hey, I'm sure there's people out there, but this movie did see a re-release on DVD and an import Blu-ray, just because it's kind of got a little bit of a cult classic status. So it was fun to get Jackson to autograph this and hear the story behind it. He did explain that he was just trying to get some other jobs, and his agent said, hey, look, we've got this horror film that you might like to do the voicing for the creature in it. And he said he got it done. Excuse me. He got everything done for it in about a day. Quick shoot, made a decent little bit of money, and then the movie came out, and he said that he actually never even saw the film. So he did the job, never watched it, but it still was really, really cool, and he did sign it there for me. See if we can bring it a little closer, but it does say, "To Chase, all the best, Jackson Boswick," and then he put in parentheses Jen down at the bottom. So this was a really cool little autograph I've got. I am a fan of autographs. I've got several comic books autographed and other VHSs and things. But this one was really, really cool because as a kid, I love monster movies. This was one of my favorites, and to get to meet the guy who voiced the monster in this was just really, really cool. Plus, the priceless look on his face bringing this out was absolutely amazing. That was one of the things I was excited for with Fanboy Expo in Knoxville that unfortunately got postponed due to the coronavirus. Christopher Lambert, most people know as Highlander. He was Raiden in Mortal Kombat. He was going to be there, and I was so excited. My dad wanted to go meet him. Of course, hopefully we'll be able to meet him later when they do it, I think in October. Because Dad, my father Mark, he used to hear him on Monster Stomp Down, loved him as Highlander, and I told him, I said, hey, there's going to be so many people lined up to have like Raiden posters or Highlander posters or movies and things like that about those characters for him to sign. I'm going to be the one guy in line with my VHS copy of Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, which happens to be my favorite Tarzan film, for him to sign. Again, I like those rare oddities, things people may not know as much, but this was a cool one for my collection. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the story. Now, for the last part of this, of course, we love when you guys send in pictures of your collections and items from your collection. So I've got two again for this episode. The first one is from a good friend of mine named Jason Osborne. He lives pretty close to me in Virginia. I live in Tennessee, but we're kind of both around the border. But check out what Jason brought. This is really, really cool. All right, so those items from Jason's collection, and Jason's a big comic collector. He runs an auction site called Oz Comics. Definitely check that out. You'll see me sharing those on my personal page a lot. He's a really cool comic collector, and as you can see, I pulled some comics out because I want to talk about what you just saw. What you saw from Jason's collection actually was Venom number 7. There was a Virgin variant. Now, for those who don't know, a Virgin variant is where it's just the picture itself that the artist does. No labeling, no UPC barcode, none of that stuff. It's just the plain picture. And he had the Virgin variant of Venom 7 with the Infinity Gauntlet, and then the released, the press release version. Then below it, he had in CGC, kind of what you see here, yellow label autographed, Clayton Ghost Rider, Cosmic Ghost Rider number 1, Virgin variant, and again the regular press one. Those were done by an artist named Clayton Crane, who Jason's a big fan of, but so is Sludge. I love Clayton's artwork. Clayton's probably my favorite modern day artist when it comes to comic books. I've got a lot of his stuff, and that's what I want to pull out real quick before we jump to the next one. My two favorite Clayton Crane items in my collection, which I actually got from Jason. Right here is a New York Comic Con exclusive Clayton Crane cover of Venom First Host number 1. This is CGC graded at a 9.6 and verified for Clayton's autograph. Probably one of my favorite and coolest items in my comic collection. Again, I love Clayton's artwork, so I got this from Jason, which is a cool one. Another one of my favorite ones right here is Venom Carnage number 1, which was also a Clayton Crane cover. So, Jason, thank you for sending those in. Both big fans of Clayton Crane. If you're a comic book lover, you probably know who he is. Next up, we got another collection piece of comics from a good friend of mine, Justin Stewart. Justin comes from Indiana, and check out what he decided to throw in today. Those are some cool comics that Justin sent in. A lot of those are recently picked up from what he told me, What If collection. He actually had in there, and unless you zoomed in and saw it, one of my favorite What Ifs, I think it's the issue 36 maybe, where it's got Daredevil and Elektra, and it was What If Elektra had died. Really cool book. There's a lot of cool What If stories. Actually, part of the new Thor movie that's coming out deals with a What If issue. And Disney Plus has actually announced a What If animated series. And so what that series of comics is you've got a lot of these big storylines that they did a What If spinoff, kind of like what if this happened instead. Really cool series of books that Marvel did, still do, and again they've got a show coming out. Two really cool pieces in that you saw. Kind of in the top center was Gambit's first appearance and second appearance. Gambit, of course, being a mutant from the Bayou, as part of X-Men, is definitely, I know, Justin's favorite character. That was pretty cool. It was issue 266. X-Men 266 is the first appearance of Gambit. Justin actually had what's called the Facsimile reprint. You'll see at the top there, a $399 price tag on it. So this was a reprint. The original one can go for up around $200, $250, depending on the condition of the book. And then, of course, he had an actual authentic second appearance, 267. So really cool collection, Justin. Thank you guys so much for sending it in. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching the next episode of Sludge's Stash. Next episode, got something really cool for you. We're going to do a little bit of a character piece. One of my favorite characters when it comes to pop culture, comic books, those type of things, is the Scarlet Spider. And I've got some really cool stuff to show off for that. Some signed pieces, some rare pieces. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. There'll be a whole table full for you guys to see next time. Again, thank you all so much. Have a blessed day.